This is big breaking news. Authorities are now announcing that humans are being infected with a quote never before seen virus in humans, and quarantine zones have been set up as well in 8 different states. So let's get into all the details here. You guys can see this article. This is from the New York Post. It says Washington man quote severely ill with quote unpredictable virus never before seen in humans. All right, so this is a new strain of bird flu that is spreading in Washington, and they're saying this guy got it from his backyard chickens. All right, this is crazy. And there's actually quarantines going on right now for chicken flocks and actual movement of chickens. This is going on in 8 states. You can see here, this is one of the states, state of Indiana. They just implemented this 5 days ago. It says state of Indiana response to highly pathogenic avian influenza. And it says here, it's listing all the different flocks that are under quarantine. You can see the LaGrange 34 flock, 28,000 birds, status quarantine. These are commercial egg layers, all right? Another one, flock 35, 5,000 birds. These are commercial meat ducks, quarantined as well too. So be on the lookout maybe for these egg prices to go back up, and for chicken prices as well too. Meat birds are being affected as well too from this, so be on the lookout for that. Thanksgiving's coming up. Most of those turkeys are already harvested and they're done, their season's over, but a lot of times they will just slaughter the entire flock too, right? There's been millions. I think it was over 100 million earlier this year. It's probably even more at this point, all right? But they've been trying to stop just slaughtering all the chickens, and they put them under quarantine for weeks or months and let the sick ones kind of die out, and then whichever ones survive are kind of more resilient to this in the future, right? So they've actually changed the strategy and they stopped killing so many of them, but previously they were killing, it was literally over 100 million chickens that were slaughtered in the US from these quarantines and stuff, all right? So 8 states are setting that up. We'll get into more details of that in the other states that are doing it too, but Indiana, there you go, just set it up. But it says here, in a startling first, a Washington man has been infected with a strain of bird flu previously only detected in animals and never before seen in humans. The quote severely ill man was hospitalized with a high fever, confusion, and respiratory distress earlier this month, and confirmed to have H5N5, a subtype of avian influenza carried by wild birds like duck and geese. You can see here, this is supposedly a close-up of the H5N1 virus, which differs slightly from the H5N5 virus that recently infected a man in Washington state. So apparently this stuff's just always like mutating and it's crossing over to humans now. There's been no person-to-person cross, at least for this strain. But what's going on, right? It's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of weird and a little sketchy. It says here, the Washington State Department of Health described the unidentified patient as being, quote, older and having, quote, underlying health conditions. The agency noted that the man has a mixed backyard flock of domestic poultry at his home in Grays Harbor County on the southwest Pacific coast of the state. So they're linking this to backyard flocks. So, I mean, they could start even quarantining those. And a lot of times when this does happen, they will show up and just get rid of the entire flock. They will force you to forfeit your chickens and just slaughter them and get rid of them. And they actually come in a lot of the times, not every time, but standard protocols to come in hazmat gear, hazmat suits, and they actually just stuff the birds right into bags. Okay, I've shown the pictures, I've shown the stuff, I've shown it on here a dozen times, okay, because they keep doing this, right? This keeps happening. And it says here, wild birds could also access the property, with the agency officials believing that either sets of birds is most likely the source of the virus exposure. The man remained hospitalized as of last week while the investigation continues. So, I don't know. I have chickens myself, okay? And I've never had this issue, but be careful out there. I don't know what's going on. Apparently this stuff's mutating. Apparently there's new strains. There's, backyard flocks are getting it. Who knows what's really going on? So just be very careful and try to keep your chickens as healthy as possible. And the theory here is that wild birds that are carrying these diseases, go to the bathroom, and their droppings land in your coop or in your run or your area where your chickens are, in your yard, wherever it is, and then they dig into that, picking up the virus. They now have this virus, they're digging in the poop or whatever. That's the theory here. So if that's true, then you could try to keep your chickens in a covered environment. Maybe build in like a big coop that's covered. Something along those lines if you're worried about that for your birds. But it's saying here risk to the public is low. Alright? And it says no one else has tested positive for the H5N5 and there's no evidence of person-to-person spread. Though experts have acknowledged that viral evolution can be, quote, unpredictable. I don't know. Who knows? They do lots of experiments with these certain viruses too. I'm not saying the specific one, but we know that certain research does happen to enhance certain attributes of these viruses. I'm not saying this one is, but it's just something to think about. It says H5N1 has persisted here since 2022, infecting wild birds, domestic poultry, dairy cattle, and even occasionally humans. So quarantines are being set up, all right? And this is happening in other states too. So Indiana right now just announced this. And also we have Pennsylvania and Lancaster County. 58,000 birds in October were quarantined. And one recent layer farm with 2 million birds was quarantined as well too. And it says a 10-kilometer radius for testing and movement bans on poultry products is happening in November. It's active November 2025. All right, so they're banning even poultry product movements in these certain counties and certain areas where they're having quarantine outbreaks. Minnesota is also having statewide restrictions as well too, to control zones around infected sites, movement tracking via state systems, and quarantines lifted after 28 days of downtime, cleaning, and restocking. California has set up these quarantine sites. Okay, even dairy cattle are being quarantined because this has crossed over. It's people joke, they call it the cow flu too. All right, it's the bird flu, but it's also the cow flu because it's been infecting so many cows, especially dairy herds. And in California, there's been over 700 herds, not 700 cows, 700 dairy herds. And I think there's only a few thousand, like 1,500, maybe 2,000 in the entire state. But I think it's over half of the herds in California have been under these quarantines, right? It's around that number. A significant percentage of these herds have been in and out of quarantine, and they're shut down. There's no milk production too. So that's what's also going on here. This is crazy, right? It's affecting meat birds, it's affecting eggs, and also dairy as well too. Cheese, milk, ice cream, butter, all this stuff is affected, and dairy's in everything too. So this is putting pressure on prices. There's less supply on the market when these herds are in quarantine. Over 700 herds in 2025 alone. It's a lot, all right? A lot in quarantine just in California. And California is a significant milk producer and just agricultural producer in general for the entire country. So Wisconsin also has statewide quarantines in effect for certain hotspots and zones. Washington, near Grays or in Grays Harbor County, they have these quarantines in effect where this human case has been put in or has happened, all right? And they're putting these in place. And this even can affect domestic flocks. So they're restricting movements of birds, and you are required to report any sick birds as well too. So if like your chicken or whatever, your flocks not doing good, one of your birds, this happens all the time, honestly. With chickens, they just randomly get sick sometimes, and just sometimes you lose them, all right? Sometimes they've been sick and you just didn't really notice because they're good at hiding it, or something happened. They've had a failure to thrive. They just weren't doing good to begin with. It can happen, right? But now in these certain areas like Grays Harbor County, you need to report sick birds even for domestic backyard flocks, because they're saying this was a backyard flock where this guy got infected, so now they're even targeting that. So kind of crazy to have those requirements. And if your bird is sick and then there's a quote outbreak near you and they can link it to your birds and you didn't report it, I don't know, there could be penalties. They could fine you, who knows, maybe even jail, I don't know. But these quarantines are in effect. Also, Oregon has regional quarantines as well, and even Georgia in Gordon County, commercial poultry has been targeted, and multiple different farms have been quarantined, all right? And even poultry sales were suspended earlier temporarily due to the outbreak, all right? So pretty crazy. They can suspend movement, they can suspend sales, they can quarantine the whole farm, they can just wipe out the whole farm. Quarantine is the nice thing to do, honestly, because they will just get rid of all the animals, and then the farmers have to restart. This has been happening to a lot of farmers where they refine their breeds. Okay, they've always selected the meatiest birds for their meat birds, okay, for their Cornish hens, for their broilers. They've selected the juiciest, biggest ones for decades, and this is like kind of their line, and they sell these big birds and they have a consistent line. Or these egg layers, they lay every single day, they never miss a day, this certain breed and these certain hens that they've been breeding. Or they have special eggs that are blue, whatever it is, or they're heavy milk producers, big beef cows, whatever it is. Farmers like select certain characteristics for their animals to breed to make their their harvest more productive. So these things get wiped out. That's my point here, is when they go in and they just wipe out all the birds, there's decades of work that goes into some of these breeders, and that's all gone. They just have to restart with like some stock birds from some hatchery, some big hatchery, which is okay for like a backyard gardener, but for a commercial operation that's been doing this for decades, it's devastating. And I've reported on multiple farms where this exact thing has happened. All right, so let me know what you guys think down below. Hope you guys are staying safe, staying prepared, staying stocked up, staying ready, just in case. Who knows? I don't think this is in like the panic zone or anything like that, but I think it's concerning for grocery prices for sure, right? That this is reigniting and becoming a thing again. It's like every 6 months or something, there's a big flare up, and they start cracking down, and there's quarantines and there's outbreaks and there's spreading to people. Okay, there's been dozens of cases. I think it was over 70 cases of people contracting this avian influenza in the United States just this year. But this is the first time they've ever contracted this H5N5, which is a newer mutation. Okay, so let me know what you guys think down below. Hope you guys are staying safe, staying prepared, staying stocked up. And we could see egg shortages, so maybe get some chickens, all right? Stock up. Be prepared, be ready. So thank you guys. Hope you have big blessings, and I hope you have a big old blessed day.